I just don't know how to start these videos. If I'm doing a song tutorial, then I just play the song and then I yell the name of the song and I say featuring and then I say something stupid. But if I'm doing one of these like 7 tips for how to solo for non-guitarists or whatever, I just don't, once I get the balls rolling, we'll be fine. But at the current moment in time, 0 balls are rolling and I find myself at a loss. People of the world, friends and relatives, welcome. I do kind of need to blow my nose. Should we do an on-camera nose blow? So here's what's really embarrassing. Well, one, I just tucked the used Kleenex into my sock, so that was a strange choice. But embarrassing thing number 2 is that if you notice, I just had the Kleenex right here ready to go. And, okay, guys, I'm gonna make a very strange confession. I planned that beforehand. Before I hit record, I was like, do you know what I should do? I should blow my nose on camera. That was actually a thing that I decided was a good idea. And then we'll call the video, How to Actually Get Better at Guitar. Whoa, that was new. Is that gonna be a regular thing or where'd that come from? People of the world, French and relatives, my name is Stuart Alexander Lehman-brown. You are here for one of a few reasons. One of those reasons is probably you've been playing guitar for a while, but you're just like, but what do I don't know what to practice. How do I actually get better? I listen to bands I love and the guitarists are incredible and they write these great songs. They play these wicked fire solos. I look online and there are people going, and it sounds so good. Midwest emo. That's a term that I learned. There's a yellow pad. I don't want to do this anymore. I was so excited. I was feeling good. And then you bummed me out because you kept watching me. Basically, you are motivated. You are disciplined. All of the right things that a successful guitarist and musician needs. Yet you find yourself plateauing. You find yourself not progressing the way you want. Because what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to practice scales? People say to practice scales. But so I practiced a couple scales and it just was boring and it kind of felt like a waste of my time. I don't understand what's happening. Also, like, Uncle Stuart, I just don't know what to do. Like, I can play the basic chords. I can even do bar chords and it's okay. Like I'm not great at them, but I'm okay at them. Like I understand. But like, what do I do when I actually want to like play with other people or I want to write my own songs or I want to like be a guitarist and I don't feel like that's happening. What do I do? So hang on. Okay, wait. So obviously there are a bajillion different things you could practice. Like if you want to be a jazz guitarist, you do probably want to practice a bunch of scales and licks and stuff like that. If you want to play metal, then you have to like be able to play fast and do all of that stuff that I've never really cared about. There are a plethora of different directions you could go. And probably each individual one of you has different, like, specific things that would be great for you to practice. What I'm going to share with you today is what I believe is the most important thing that all of you should be working on. I put should in quotes because I think should is a terrible word. That was the worst thing I've ever done on this channel. So in my opinion, this is the only tip that applies to everyone, that whether you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced, this is a helpful thing that you would benefit from if you made it a regular part of your whole guitar playing routine. And this is what it is. Memorize everything. Memorize songs, memorize scales, memorize licks, whatever stuff you're working on, memorize it. And you're like, Uncle Stuart, I was really hoping you were going to say something that I was going to make me go like, that's such a good idea. But you said memorize everything. And I'm like, I already kind of memorized everything. What do you mean? That's not really helpful. Yes, I understand. I have comprised a list. I've curated a list of 5 reasons why memorizing everything is helpful and beneficial, and also what I mean by memorize everything. So let's just dive right into the list. Reason number 1 why it is helpful to memorize everything is the most obvious one, because it is going to expand your repertoire. The more songs you memorize, the more songs you'll be able to play. The more scales you memorize, the more scales you'll be able to play, for whatever reason you might want to do that. The more chords you memorize, the more chord progressions you memorize. If you have it memorized, then that means you know it and you can play it in any situation. So that's very broad, very general, but that's just the basic thing. If you memorize a bunch of songs, you can play a bunch of songs. That is helpful. Now hang on, because I wrote something else down. Oh, this is very important. Along with expanding your repertoire of what you know, if you memorize everything that you learn, it also makes it so much easier to learn new things. So here's what I mean. If you play a bunch of songs, but you're just reading the chords and lyrics off of your phone, that's great. I hope you're having a good time doing it, but you're not really learning that song, and you're not really getting better at learning new songs. Instead, when you learn a new song, if you maybe look at the chords or the tab for a little bit and then you put that away and force yourself to play it all from memory, not only will you keep that song with you all through the year, you will also get better at learning songs, learning scales, learning chords as time flies. You can tell if I'm not confident in what I'm saying, I do bigger hand gestures. To summarize tip number 1, the more songs you memorize, the more songs you know, and the better you get at learning new songs in the future. Tip number 2, memorizing things gives you more confidence in your ability to play it. If you read things off the page, read things off your phone, whatever, you are not going to feel like it's actually a part of your skill set. You're going to feel like it's just something that you're playing in the moment. But if you memorize everything and you know that you can play it at any time, any place, it is going to make you a more confident guitar player, which makes you more competent. That's what I always say. More confidence, more confidence, more competence, impotence. The more that you memorize, the more... To piggyback onto that, if you have to read stuff off of your phone or whatever when you're playing, you kind of look like a dork when you're doing that. It kind of makes it seem like you don't know what you're doing. And I don't mean that like I'm not trying to judge you for doing it. I just think you're going to look and feel a lot cooler if you're able to do it all from memory. Tip number 3. When you memorize everything, you're actually learning it and not faking it. Again, if you have the chords or the tab in front of you and you're sitting there reading, playing it, you can kind of like skim through the parts that you don't know that well, the transition from the verse into the pre-chorus or the bridge back into the chorus. You kind of go like, I'm not sure. Let me jump ahead to this part. And you start playing somewhere else. If you really force yourself to memorize every song you play, it forces you to learn every part of the song. Now, you still might not be able to play every single part of the song perfectly, but you, at the bare minimum, have to face each part of the song and know how to get through it one way or another. And by okay, I don't need to keep, and then by doing that, you do this, and then by doing that, you do this, and you don't need to do this, but if you do that, then you'll always do this. Memorize everything. Moving on, tip number 4. Now we're getting to the good ones. The first 3 were stupid. Those were just to take up space in this video. Tip number 4 and 5 are the good ones. Tip number 4, ear training. When you play from memory, so you're not staring at the page or staring at your phone while you play, you're listening more. When you force yourself to play everything, again, songs, scales, licks, chords, everything from memory, you cannot help but listen to what you're playing. And I know, every single person out there is going, what kind of idiot is this? Of course I listen when I'm playing. Yeah, but the truth is, you might not be listening all that closely. Have you ever been playing a song? You're reading the tab off the page, and you're like, all right, it says 2. Okay. And then you move on with the song, because you're like, I don't know, it sounded terrible, sounded nothing like the song, but I don't know, I'm just reading the tab. What am I supposed to do? And you just move on with the rest of the song. We've all done that. You play some chord, doesn't sound right, but you're like, that's what it says, so you just keep going. When you're playing things from memory, it's going to be way harder to do that because you have nothing else to look at. You have nothing else to do other than pay attention to your fingers and the sounds. So you will end up listening more and more closely to what you're playing. You will then start to anticipate what the notes and chords are going to sound like before you play them. Once you start anticipating what it's going to sound like before you play it, you're going to start knowing what notes sound like that are like you're just going to start getting a feel for like, oh, well, yeah, if I play the first fret and then the third fret, it sounds like this. And if I play this note and this note at the same time, it sounds like this. Without putting in like hours consciously studying ear training, if you memorize everything, you are automatically going to train your ears to hear how the different notes interact, how the different chords interact. You're going to start to be able to figure out songs just by ear. You're going to hear a song and then go, well, that sounds like it goes like from this, and then maybe like, yeah, then to this, and it sounds to me like it goes right back to this, because I was playing that other song that did something similar. Oh, and then the next part, it does this, then it goes to this, because I recognize that A minor 7 sound, and then it sounds like it goes back to G, but it feels like there's something different. It goes to, it feels like it goes to a G sus chord. You will start to hear all those little changes just because instead of focusing on following instructions as you play, you're going to focus on what it actually sounds like and what your fingers are actually doing. Actually is the word of the day, apparently, because I've said it so many times. There's one more tip. Do you think it's going to meet your expectations, or do you think it's going to be a disappointment? I think it's barely going to meet your expectations. Reason number 5 why you should memorize everything if you want to get better at guitar is because if you memorize everything, you will start to automatically learn music theory. Music theory is one of those things that's on everybody's list. Man, I really should learn some music theory. Well, no, some people are like, music theory's for nerds, and I'm not that kind of nerd. I'm the Elden Ring kind of nerd, not the like music theory kind of nerd. And that's fair. I understand. But here's the thing. You don't need to know like, well, the G major scale is, you could think of it as a G major scale, but because it has a sharp 11, it's actually the 4th mode of the D major scale. Like, you don't need to think about that sort of thing to use music theory to your advantage. Here's what I'm talking. I know, I'm just rambling. We're at the end of the video. The only people who are still watching are the people who are just like, I like this guy. He seems kind of dumb. If you memorize a bunch of songs, you will start to recognize different chord progressions. And then you'll start to recognize how those different chord progressions fit together. And you'll notice what notes go along with certain chords. And you'll notice, oh, well, this songwriter really likes to sing an A note when he's playing a B minor chord. I wonder if those go together. And you don't even necessarily think A note and B minor. You think when he's playing this chord, he sings that note, and I'm getting used to that, so that must be a note that fits with that chord. And then you start to go, oh, actually this whole scale fits with these chords. Oh, and all these bands really like using these notes, and they're all kind of like right next to each other here. You start to just pick up on all these little musical theory, no one's ever said that ever in the history of time. All these little music theory tidbits, and you won't have names for them because you will just be discovering them on your own. But music theory is just as useful when you don't know all the terms and all the formulas. I don't know, are there formulas in music theory? Kind of, yeah, there are. By memorizing songs, I personally believe you learn the most crucial elements of music theory. The intuitive things that like sound good to you will start to make more and more sense. And then down the line, if you decide to learn the terminology and stuff, that's great. It will be easier because you already will have the familiarity with how it sounds. And then you can write songs and you can become the world's greatest musician in the planet of the Earths. Would you please be a pal and forgive me for, I don't know, the sins of the past or whatever. This video was really fun. I'm really glad we did it. Thanks.